Okay, so like, I'm like cracking up over here. These electronics are so crazy. So I'm like laughing because I remember. So I grew up in Centerville, and we grew up in a Cable's Mill neighborhood, new developing neighborhood. Back in the early '80s, I think we moved into a. We were. It was built. The house was built for us. Like 5 bedrooms, 3 floors, an underground basement, big hill, back in the front, and two pear trees in the front, which lightning was always hitting, by the way, which was super interesting. Hit struck like one tree 3 times, struck another tree a couple times. Very a lot of we'd snow snowboard sled down the back hill. All the kids in the neighborhood would come to our hill for sledding, and I'd make like little moguls and stuff. But we'd always end up in the bushes, like at the end of the track, and then my mom would come out on the porch and yell at us, and I was always giggling because Mom, I didn't mean it. It just, oh, it was the snow, and then she get really mad. I laugh even more, and then I couldn't get up, and she got back in the house. Oh, that shit was funny. But we'd always go in. She'd always like call us in and be like, "Let's warm up and have grilled cheese and tomato soup and hot chocolate and stuff with marshmallows." It was fun. But we didn't have a porch back then. And like a few years, it had snowed. One year it had snowed like 4 feet, and I was like really really young. So the snow came up to about here as a kid. And I remember before we had installed the deck in the back and the screening porch and the jacuzzi eventually. Uh, you just kind of jump down into the snow. There you go. Just make a little maze through there. There we go. We're having fun now. But I was laughing because I remember it was like spring or summer. My dad said he was on the front porch with me, and I'm like outside just. So he says that he's on the porch watching me watch out the way. And he says, "So one day you were 4 years old. We had just moved into the Centerville house. And I think your sisters had just arrived. They were like young. They were like 1.5, 2." He said, all of a sudden, this man with a beard and a bunch of tattoos comes riding down our street on a motorcycle. He said, you could not take your eyes off of this man. You just kept, oh. And he said, and I said, oh, I love men. And he said, oh man, at 4 years old, you better watch out now. Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, it all makes sense now, don't it? So I thought that was freaking hilarious. Oh my God, what kid says that? Well, you know what? I was also the kid that when mom would take us to the library, I'd gather, like, she's get whatever you want. So I'd gather, go into all these sections, have a pile of books. I need to put some back. Why? Well, how many are you going to read at one time? I said, I don't know. So I'd get like 3 to 5. And that was, I was like, all right, fine, I'll be reasonable. So I would just, at 13 years old, we had, my parents had built a vacation home, I guess. They live there now, on and off, I guess, and I don't know. But I remember bringing my books up there and being in the sunroom where we have skylights, so the weather, the rain would come down, so I'd read. And I had checked out books about world's religions, anthropology, stuff that I'm like sitting there reading. And so our relatives would come over and be like, hey, Lala, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm studying world religions and culture. And they're like, what? Okay, you're like, okay, cool. They like never got it. And I thought that stuff was so funny. I don't know, man. Just funny things that I remember as a kid, and yeah, it's just interesting. What is that? Showed up here. So, yeah, so just, memories, good memories of us. I remember going to the beach. We'd go to the beach a lot to duck in Outer Banks, Nag's Head. Most summers we'd go to the beach because we loved it. We'd get a big house, have our friends, families there, and we were always having people over and relatives over. We always had a lot of people out, and a lot of cooking, a lot of music, movie times, um, a lot of really cool trips around the world, all the time, going to New York. Um, you know, it's almost, how would you know what's out there unless you've seen it and seen it done in different ways? Like, I remember when I was 9 years old and going to Germany and going to a restaurant, and I was like looking around, and I'm like, there's like 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds drinking alcohol with their parents, and I'm like, but they're mature and they're not falling over, and yet they're just drinking a little bit. And I remember, I'm like, well, this is what we have in Jewish culture where some, depending on the family, for the ritual, you take a sip of the wine. The kids take a sip of the wine. And, with prayer intention. And it's used as ceremony. And I'm just like, wow, this is very interesting. And yet everything was more mature. Everything was handled better because it was addressed in a more mature integrity manner. And everyone was acting responsible with everything. And I found that a very beautiful thing. Um, I remember we had gone to Denmark, and my sister, I don't know if I told this story before, but my sister, one of them had gotten lost. And nobody speaks English up in Denmark, y'all. So I'm like, and I noticed that my parents are, with part of the family, and I was the only one that noticed that she was missing. And then I went to go look for her, and I was like, "Yo, I'll be right back." And they're like, "Whoa, where are you going? Wait, where's Beth?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's lost." And I've been trying to tell you that for like 5 minutes now. So I'll be right back. You guys stay here because I'm going over here. This is where she's at. And I find her in front of a fountain with this Danish lady who's like talking to her. Man, I really think I've told this story before. It's just beautiful. And she didn't know English, but she knew what you read language. Anyway, I'm just thinking of these beautiful things and just reflecting. And I love that. Love you guys.